All right, damn it. That's enough of all that racket. Unhappy Wednesday, everybody. Coming to you live once again from our humble abode. This is the UnHappy Gilmore Show, powered by Green Legion Radio and part of the Green Legion Radio family. We thank you, as always, for joining us from wherever you may be and whatever device you're using to stream us on YouTube. So please pull up a chair, turn up the volume if you need to. Use the company dime if you're still stuck at work. Crack open a cold one if that's your thing on a Wednesday night. And let's try to have some fun as we put an end to day 3 of this week's hostage situation and look forward to tomorrow being Friday Eve. Vinny in the room. What's up, cool kids? How you doing, darling? Russ Taylor says party time. And okay, let's get to the draft and the schedule release, right? Yeah, I know we're all chomping at the bit. But some good news over the last couple of days. Of course, it is Howie season. And Howie's not leaving any time for really anything to be imagined there. He's off and rolling already. So we're happy to see that. Happy with the news today is Zach Bond. Very happy to see Saquon Barkley with the extension. We're going to talk about both of those things here in just a little while. After we do the business stuff. And then I've got a bit of a rant I need to go on for a few minutes. And then we'll get on to the birds. Lou Mancini joins us. What's up, buddy? How we doing? So let's go ahead and get the business out of the way. And then we'll get down to the fun shit. Everyone, my wife's favorite part of the show. We are proudly sponsored by Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, located at 2740 South Front Street in Philadelphia, just minutes away from the sports complex. Cheerleaders brings you the area's most beautiful women on 5 different stages. Open 7 days a week from noon until 2 a.m. and until 4 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. For group information, call 215-467-1980 to reserve a private booth or party package. Also offering free parking, a full menu, daily drinking food specials, and a premium selection of cigars and a cigar lounge. If you can't get out to the bank and you can't get out to the link, but you're looking for a place to watch your favorite sporting event, head on out to Cheerleaders and enjoy the 75-foot HD TV wall, as well as HD TV screens throughout the club. Once again, folks, that's Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, located at 2740 South Front Street in Philadelphia. Call 215-467-1980 for all of your group and party information. Russ Taylor, if I'm a GM or president on draft night and I see area code 2, I'm not picking up the phone. You're getting bent over the desk. We've been talking about that for a couple of years. That 215 area code comes up. Not today, Satan. Russ says, I'll be hitting Cheerleaders after the Phillies home opener. Yeah, on Monday night. All right. Like it. 75 foot. That's what she said. Yikes. All right. And as always, folks, if you're tuning in, obviously on YouTube, but we do have other social media, even though we can't stream there right now. Please make sure you're sharing not just this show, but Green Legion in general on YouTube. Share our YouTube page, share our Facebook page, share our Instagram, all of it. Get out there. Help us flood the interwebs with the Green Legion and with Green Legion Radio. Russ earlier mentioned we want to get on to the part of what we want to get on to is the schedule release. Of course, we don't know the who. Oh, I'm sorry. We do know the who. We just don't know the when. But what we do know when early bird deposits for Green Legion trips will be open. That is this Friday, March 7th. We will start taking early bird deposits for the 2025 season. That's Green Bay, Buffalo, LA for the Chargers, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, LA for the Chargers. Tampa Bay, Dallas, Baltimore, New York, and I'm missing one. Kansas City. is another one. So if any of those are if you're interested in any of those and you want to get an early bird in there, it's usually $150 per person. Get on there, get on Green Legion, always at the bottom of the screen, greenlegion.com. Hop on in there this Friday as soon as it becomes available and get your early bird deposit in. We'll break it down again for those of you who don't know how it works. If you say Russ looked up and said, "Hey, I want to go to Tampa." And so he goes in there and says, "Okay, I'm putting down $150 deposit for myself to go to Tampa Green Legion trip this year." Well, schedule gets released early May and the date doesn't work, right? Say it's on Thanksgiving, say it's on Christmas, whatever the case may be. The dates don't work for the trip. You can then take your deposit and shift it to another trip. So in this situation, say Russ, the Tampa dates don't work. Buddy looks up and, well, I could go to Minnesota. That's the game. That's the away game I was missing. I could go to Minnesota. Those dates work. You contact Steph, shift that over, and you don't lose your place in line. All right. So it's really, really simple. It's a great thing we do every single year. And I know I will be putting mine in for Green Bay as soon as that becomes available. I have absolutely no idea at this point if I will be needed to work any trips this year. How many, if any, at all, I just don't know right now. So if you're looking to link up with me on the road, I can tell you your surefire bet, unless the dates are impossible, would be Green Bay. I don't know that Michelle is going to go, but I know I want to go. Lambeau is a bucket list thing for me, and I am going. Rockin' Raj, what's up, Roger? He is here. I know Roger's all pumped up about Zach Bond. All right, let me get this out of the way, and then we'll get on to some fun. And I know this isn't specific to me, but I do have this platform, and I know a lot of you will understand and feel the same way. You get to a certain point in your life where you've busted your ass. You're the boss, you're the manager, you're the leader. You have a team, and there are daily expectations, right? The number one expectation is these people are going to show up for work. Everyone wants to run lean and mean. Everyone's trying to do more with less. So when somebody doesn't show, it becomes a real hardship. I went into work today. We are extraordinarily busy at work right now, and it's been going on for 2 months. It's not like this is news, right? I was about 5 minutes from my facility, and text message goes off as I'm driving in, and it's one of my guys, and he says his stomach doesn't feel well. He's not going to make it in. Now, this is a recurring thing with this person. It's not like every week or whatever, but it does happen. Now, I also know he does have some, I don't know if it's IBS or Crohn's or whatever, but does have some issues there. It just really, it's indicative of the workforce as a whole. And therein is where I get pissed off. Okay, because it's not just folks in my department. Last week we had one guy call off three straight days, and his brother didn't show up twice. Mike English joins the room. What's up, brother? How we doing? His brother didn't show up twice. One of the days was a no-call, no-show. Now, this week we have this person. And we're so damn busy in the area where this person works that it not just adds strain to the other person working there, but it also adds strain to the lead and to me. Now, I don't have any trouble putting in a hard day's work, but if I have to go jump on a forklift, we have a fucking problem. Okay? This is not what I do anymore. Now, if I have to get on one and school some people on how you actually do this, no worries. I can drive circles around anyone. But when it's forced because people are calling off of work, it pisses me off. And I see it across every department in our facility. And I'm sure you guys are seeing it where you're at. This workforce, and in particular, the younger kids, they don't want to work. They just want to sit on their ass and get paid for doing nothing. I've tried to instill a better work ethic in my kids. I'm hopeful that that works out as they grow and become their own adult, their own people, their own men and women. But I have had enough of all of this bullshit. Like, I can't take it. What's up, Lee? How you doing, brother? Food industry is solid on labor. Josh, howdy fucking ho, everyone. I came in on quite a discussion yet. I'm at my wit's end with it. I'm gonna be 46 years old in a couple of months. Not even a month and a half. I don't want to keep dealing with it. Like, I just want people to show up for work. Come to work. And honestly, I'm gonna say, and we don't get political on here, and so this is not a one side or the other thing. I'm just gonna go out and say, when COVID was a thing, everyone got told to stay home. Everyone got handed money. And then the world came back to life and nobody wanted to come back to work. The workforce was already weak. I'm not solely blaming that. I'm saying all of that massively compounded an issue that was already there. You had a weak workforce going in, and then all you did was give away money for a couple of years. The biggest one was 2021, when they gave away $1,400 per person in a household right on the heels of tax season. So you had these people who are, single parents or whatever, and they have 3, 4, or 5 children. So their tax return is enormous because of the way that's set up. And then you gave them $1,400 per person in their house. So if it's 5 people, and this person got that $10,000 tax return because they're a single parent, you then gave them another $7,000. In the matter of a couple of weeks, you gave them somewhere between $15,000 and $18,000. Those people did not come back to work, because on top of that, they're also getting assistance with food and whatever else. They just stayed home, and now they don't want to work at all. And it is out of control. I can't stand it. Look, when I started out some 25, 26 years ago, now I was in the Northeast, wasn't out here in the Midwest where things are a little bit more laid back. I was in the Northeast where things are wound up. And, at that point in time, you could grab a hold of somebody's freaking collar and, what is your problem? Can't get away with that shit anymore. But this whole calling off and just whatever. And then you get like this point system that you have to go through before you can terminate someone. Some of these things are out of control. I'll give you an example. The one where I'm at. You guys tell me how ridiculous this is. And actually, when our senior vice president came out and delivered this to all of us, they put it up on a projector on the wall in the warehouse. So you're going to do a verbal sit down at 3 points. You're going to do a written at 4. You do a final written at 5. Or no, that's right. Verbal at 4, written at 5, final written at 6, suspension at 7. However, you're not terminated until 10 points. A point is accrued by call off is 1 point, no call, no show is 2. Early leaving or late arrival is a half. So it's all the way up to 4 points before you even get any kind of disciplinary action. And then from there, 4, 5, 6, 7 you're suspended for 2 days. But then you come back, you're at 7 points, and you don't get fired until you reach 10 points. Nothing happens to you when you screw up at 0.8 or 0.9. They're basically giving you 2 free ones. There was a guy working there. Well, he still works there. He's gotten his shit together. But for a while, he lived at 9 points. Because if you had no attendance incidents for 30 days, a point drops off. So he would get to 9, be good for a month, point would drop off, he'd call off the very next Monday. And just play in the system. And there's nothing we can do about it. Nothing at all. And I would imagine I'm not working in the only place that's like this. It's such a weak workforce that a lot of places are petrified to let anyone go. It's terrible. I can't. All right, I'm gonna get off my soapbox now. Let's see, where are we at here? Russ Taylor, wait, forklift, sir, how big is your chunk? I work even more from my home. Hey, dude, I will tell you, when I do work from home, it's rare when I do it, but when I am way more efficient because there's no other distractions. And as I'm sure a lot of you, Mike English, you've worked from home. I don't know if anybody else in here has, but you have to be disciplined in order to do that. Otherwise, you just end up sitting here shaking the mouse so your little green light on your Teams or whatever stays on. Russ Taylor. Oh, I can tell you some stuff about this douche that doesn't understand how to come to work. There you go. See? Josh, preach. That's what made me leave my job after 2020. I was tired of the warehouse I was working for, not caring about people, not showing up, and not rewarding the ones who were actually there. Yep. Keenan Harmon, most of today's workforce has been spoon-fed since coming off the team. What do you expect? I agree, brother. I agree. Russ Taylor, if someone was legitimately ill, use your sick time. But this guy next to me is horrible with his attendance. I just had to get into my boss about his attendance and how it's affecting both teams. There you go. FMLA. Mike English, when I was a supervisor in the call center, I think it was 5 suspend without pay. It's hard to fire someone, at least back then. It is hard to fire someone. And it becomes even more difficult to fire someone the older they get. It just it's tough. Roger, I feel you. We basically don't fire people unless they do something completely egregious. Yeah. Like, look, we do fire for our attendance policy. But I just broke down our attendance policy for you. You have got to really try to get fired for attendance where I work. It's insane. All right. Off my soapbox now. Thank you for letting me vent that. Let's get on to some things that are more fun. As in Howie season. It is Howie season. Russ says you never fired someone. I had a new position for you. No longer a team member. You're a guest. So over the last couple of days, we've seen the Eagles start to get active, right? And Howie getting active in increasing cap space and taking care of some guys. So we saw Bradbury and Slay. We know they're going to get shown the door post June 1st. That's going to save, around $6.5 million. Well, then yesterday we went ahead and re-upped Saquon Barkley, deservedly so. We've talked ad nauseum about, how great Saquon's been and how much he's deserved this and all of that. So 2 years, $41.2 million contract extension makes him the highest paid running back in NFL history. The deal, which includes $36 million guaranteed at signing, makes Barkley the NFL's first running back getting more than $20 million per year. He has the ability to earn an additional $15 million in incentives and escalators. Eagles later announced Barkley's extension, but did not disclose financial terms. So we don't really know the cap hit breakdown on that. What we do know is that this deal saved us another $6.5 million on 2025's cap. Right around there. So just in a couple of days, between Monday and Tuesday, we saw Howie come out and increase our cap space by $13 million. Okay. And I think we were sitting somewhere around 21 going in. So now you're at 34. Well, now today, we're going to spend some of that money. Now, in my mind, this is just me, and I was back and forth with Roger a little while ago. Just talking about the deal. But in my opinion, the priorities should have been Becton and Milton Williams. All right. I am not going to be upset about the signing of anyone, any of the bigger free agents, including the other one that got done today. Linebacker Zach Bond agrees to 3-year, $51 million contract. This deal includes $34 million guaranteed at signing and an additional $1.5 million in incentives and escalators, making Bond one of the highest paid linebackers in the NFL. And again, deservedly so. You can make an argument he should have been the defensive player of the year. The guy was absolutely unbelievable. He racked up 151 tackles, 3.5 sacks, 11 tackles for loss, forced 5 fumbles. He also carried that into the playoffs with another 33 tackles and a pair of interceptions, one of them in the Super Bowl. So, the cool part about this is, and my guys out here, Green Legion Radio followers, you've heard Quimby and myself talk about this, and Roger, Josh, anyone else from the Midwest Eagles Nest, you've heard me talk about it, where the running back and linebacker positions have generally not been an area that Howie invests a lot of money and or draft capital. They just haven't been, right? Look at, we showed Miles Sanders the door, and he was coming off a 1,200-yard season. He was only looking for $5 or $6 million a year at the time. Out. Linebacker, again, same thing. I don't know if this has to do. I'm guessing some of this has to do with the salary cap increasing and the assumption that it will continue to do so as we move forward. But I have to believe that this also has something to do with further evolution of Howie. Understanding that, okay, I've ignored these two positions for a while. Maybe it's time to pony up. Look at the impact that Zach Bond made. Obviously, the impact that you could sit here and make the argument right now that the two most valuable players on either side of the ball were Saquon Barkley and Zach Bond. So to reward them, another thing that helps is what? Cooper, Quinion, rookie deals, right? You're off. The rest of your big players on offense are locked up. Saquon or Jalen is locked up. AJ's locked up. Devontae's locked up. Dickerson, Jurgens, Johnson, all these guys are Goddard. They're all signed. So you have the room. Back to my original point, and then I'm going to put the link up here, and I want to hear from you guys. I would have been, personally, my priorities would have been the trenches. Would have been Becton and Milton Williams. Becton, because I don't think there is a price tag you can put on the importance of an offensive line like the one we had this past season. The results speak for themselves. Right now, Saquon had to execute. Jalen had to execute. All those things had to happen. But it starts with that offensive line. Mekhi Becton coming over from the Jets, trying to resurrect his career. Moves to guard, where going into camp, Tyler Steen had the inside track on that position. It was his. Whatever the hell Stoutland University did, Mekhi Becton turned into that first round pick the Jets thought they were getting. And I think it's time to pony up and lock that down. The Milton Williams thing, is, I mean, you guys all know I'm a big Milton Williams fan, right? That's just not a secret. But I think we have a big Jordan Davis problem coming in that I think he's not ever conditioned very well. If you're going to pick up the 5th-year option, you have to do it now after the 3rd season. And if you let Milton Williams walk away, who from all accounts appears to work much harder than Jordan Davis, Fangio, after the first few weeks, had Milton Williams on the field significantly more than Jordan Davis on defensive snaps. So obviously, Williams' impression on Fangio has been greater than Davis's. If you let Williams walk away and Davis continues to be this guy where he appears that he may be a bust, you could end up with a very thin defensive tackle room really fast. Josh Sweat was never on my radar. I never thought we were going to be able to retain him. Going into the postseason, Pro Football Focus or whatever had him rated as one of the top, I think, 10 upcoming free agents, and then he had 2.5 sacks in the Super Bowl. I think the last thing I saw was that he's like the 3rd rated free agent. So like we weren't going to be able to retain him. But I don't think we're in a position to lose Sweat and Milton Williams. That's just my opinion. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to get this link up and see if anyone else wants to come in and give their opinion on any of this. I am thrilled with you guys all know I'm the biggest goddamn Saquon Barkley fan on the planet. So obviously I'm thrilled there. I'm thrilled over Zach Baum. I think Roger made a good point earlier that maybe it was a few million too high, but we also don't know what he was getting offered elsewhere. And it looks like Howie, in all likelihood, probably also having spoken to Fangio, prioritized making sure we locked him down. I mean, 151 tackles speaks for itself, guys. And then you get Saquon, right? Mike English, we are go Birds for Saquon. Damn right, brother. So we're going to give it a couple of minutes here and see if anybody wants to pop in the room and give their opinion on this. As far as the first couple of days coming in this week. Now, pretty sure franchise tags were the deadline was today. The Eagles just don't use that, so it's never really a thing for us. Russ Taylor says, pour one out for Brandon Graham. None of us a surprise. You retorn that bicep in the Super Bowl. Yeah, well, I mean, he did a lot of work just to be able to get on that field and be part of it. So I commend him. And, hats off to an excellent career. Roger, good point. Might have been offered. Oh, you're talking about Bond. Bond might have been offered more somewhere else. I don't know. I think his value max was around 15 million. Yeah, I think I saw something like that, Roger, where they estimated the value of these dudes on the open market. But the real value on the open market is whatever a team is willing to pay you. That's what the real value is. So, yeah, we and who knows? So what was it? A couple of years ago when CJ after the 2022 season, we'll use this as an example. So CJ Gardner-Johnson, free agent at the end of that year, he wanted to, he wanted his money, and he had performed. But safety being another position where Howie hasn't traditionally, invested a whole lot of money in, they offered him a deal lesser than what he wanted. So he went shopping. He ends up in Detroit, $8 million. The biggest key to that offseason as far as safeties go, free agency-wise, Jesse Bates signed for like $16 million a year in Atlanta, which was unheard of. And it just wasn't going to happen. So, Atlanta does that. It resets the market for the safeties. Now all of them are screaming about money. The drop off from Bates' contract to the next guy was like by half. I think it went from 16 down to 9 or 8, and that's right in where CJ came in with the Lions. And now, of course, he's back with us. But that sort of example, if somebody's willing to go overboard for the position, then you're in a spot. And maybe there were some rumors coming in on Bond that somebody was willing to pay this or that, and Howie just said, "Well, fuck it, let's just get this done. We want to keep him anyways. We were going to try. Obviously, they were going to try to figure it out. So let's just get it done." Josh, BG with 2 rings as a bird. Damn right. Russ Taylor, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a new conference soon for his retirement. Mike English, I'm seeing Brandon Graham Friday night. Very cool. Nice. Yeah, rehabbing twice for that. Terrible. And Jalen Carter is going to be there too, English. Very cool. Very cool. I love all that. Keenan, hang on to sweat. I love hearing Efferman saying sweaty J over the Russ Taylor, so are we keeping both backup quarterbacks or using one of them as draft stock? Look, and we've talked about backup quarterbacks on this roster for a while now. And it's always a thing with the Eagles ever since the Nick Foles year, right? That's always a thing. What needs to be understood is just like Kansas City with the big contract to Mahomes, Cincinnati with the big contract to Burrow, Buffalo and Allen, Baltimore and Lamar, the girls with Dak, all of these teams that have given their quarterback the huge deal. You just don't have the money to pay for. You can't go spend 10 to 15 million on a backup quarterback. You're looking for bargain basement shit. That's why Kenny Pickett was our backup. I thought you guys were going. Oh, it's only 6:30. Sorry, talking to the wife for a minute. But you just don't have the money like that. You can't have the quarterback position taking up 40% of your cap. It's insane. You have to spread it around. So that's why you saw Kenny Pickett. Oh, excuse me. That's why you saw Kenny Pickett for $1 million. And that's kind of the stuff that Howie's going to be looking for. Maybe Tanner McKee does get elevated to the number 2 spot. I like Tanner McKee. The only problem with Tanner McKee is you have to change your entire offensive philosophy if he has to get under center. Now, truth be told, if he's going to be under center for any kind of extended period of time, like I've said before, we're probably screwed, right? Again, just like if the Bengals lose Burrow, Baltimore loses Jackson, and so on and so forth, because you can't pay $10 to $15 million for a backup quarterback, your starter goes down, you're in trouble. All right. Now, if it's Tanner McKee, yes, the entire offensive scheme has to be changed because he's not mobile. He's big, strong arm, not a mobile guy. You're not running an RPO offense with Tanner McKee, right? So I don't know. I don't really know where that goes. It's going to be some sort of bargain at the backup spot, whether it's McKee or somebody else. We're not going to be paying it. Russ Taylor, I saw Jahan Dotson last week at Lehigh Valley Phantoms game. I like Jahan Dotson. Mike English, it was bad for a while when Sweaty J was offside slot, but he redeemed himself. Absolutely. 100% agreed. Russ Taylor, gone are the days of having a backup quarterback like Doug Peterson and Scott Mitchell sitting around forever, right? Give me some Steve DeBerg. But yeah, overall, to answer your question, as far as the backup quarterback spot, it's going to be a bargain, right? Howie's going to look for somebody on the very cheap just to fill the spot. The idea is that person's coming up to take kneel downs at the end of the game. That, hand the ball off a couple of times in a blowout. That's what you want. So, and that's why you saw Kenny Pickett last year. All right. So, doesn't look like anybody wants to jump in and give their thoughts on Howie's season. So, I'm going to revert back to Saquon Barkley here. All right. Just because I love the kid and I want to. So, obviously, well deserved, rewarded for his efforts, right? He's the highest paid running back in NFL history. All of these things. Now, some of the questions after a huge season where he broke the single season record, not during the regular season, obviously, but when you include playoffs, Saquon Barkley had more yards rushing than anyone in NFL history. He surpassed Terrell Davis. So the inevitable question comes, can he do it again? Well, look, let's be honest here. 2,500 some odd yards in a season is insane. Okay. Not saying it can't happen, just the likelihood isn't really there. But the inevitable follow-up question that I get is Saquon Barkley going to be, do I think he's going to be a Hall of Fame running back? Well, unfortunately, the first few years of his career were completely mired by the Giants being inept. Okay, so he's a rookie in 2018, monster season. 1,300 yards rushing, 11 rushing touchdowns, 721 yards receiving, another 4 receiving touchdowns. Offensive Rookie of the Year. He led the NFL in yards from scrimmage. Okay. He also set a rookie record for running backs with 91 receptions. Pretty insane. But then, some injuries, right? He misses 3 games in 2019. He only plays in 2 games in 2020. Misses 3 games in 2021. Misses a game in 2022. Misses 3 games in 2023. So it was real easy for the Giant fan who wanted to support Daniel Jones to point at, Saquon's great when he's on the field. Look at all the time he's missed. Fair. He did miss a lot of time. But what those Jones supporters and Saquon naysayers don't realize is that Daniel Jones was a huge part of the reason why Saquon Barkley was banged up all the time. They draft Jones in the 2019 draft. I was there in Nashville. Hysterical. I laughed, uncontrollable laughter when they drafted him. Nobody was afraid of Daniel Jones beating them with his arm. Nobody. Go back and watch Giants games. Hell, watch our games against the Giants. Look what we did. You just stacked it up to kill Saquon. That's really all it was. That's all you had to do. You played up and you said, Danny Dimes, it's as the Giants fans like to call him. We don't think you can beat us with your arm. If you do, God bless you, but we ain't betting on it. And he couldn't. And so the rest of the league was doing the same thing. So Saquon was getting beat to death, not to mention the fact that both of those guys were sitting behind one of the worst offensive lines in football for years. Okay? Recipe for disaster. Now it becomes time for Saquon to get paid. And Daniel Jones needs to get paid. What do the Giants do? They franchise tag Saquon, give Danny the contract, $40 million a year. At the time, top of the market money for a quarterback. Look, it's one thing to make a bad decision by drafting Jones. It's a whole other thing to then double down on said bad decision. I have a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, Sam. He's been on the show a couple of times. It's been a while, but he's been on here before. He loved Daniel Jones. And not that he hated Barkley, but he just, he felt like Jones was the answer. And he's not alone. There were a lot of Giants fans. That 2022 season from Jones fooled a lot of people. because, well, I don't know. Like football media generated all this buzz about how great Jones was that year. He wasn't. He was vastly improved over what he had been previous to that, which is not saying a whole lot. The guy was still bottom third in touchdown percentage, touchdown passes, big things that mattered. He was still bottom third of the league. He was better than what he had been. Again, not saying a lot. And what happens? Jones has a better season. Saquon goes bananas again. 1,300 yards rushing, 10 rushing touchdowns. Another 338 in the air. He's a Pro Bowler, comeback player of the year, third on that, after he'd had the injury plagued season the year before. You see what happens when you put a supernatural talent on a team like Philadelphia, where the offensive line is number one. So tie it all back. The inevitable question, is Saquon Barkley going to make the Hall of Fame? Well, let's take a look. So we'll start with the rushing yards. He's got 7,216 rushing yards. Okay. Now, if I look up Hall of Fame running backs and I sort this by the yards, rushing yards, right? Is that right? Yeah, here we go. Let's see. Hall of Fame is what? Bold print is Hall of Fame. So what I will tell you is, the way it appears is once you cross over 12,000 yards rushing, you're in. Okay? Because that is where Thurman Thomas is. Of your Hall of Fame, there's other guys that are in with less than that. But 12,000 yards appears to be like, this is the number. Emmitt Smith, Walter Payton, Frank Gore hit 16,000 on the nose. His last year was 2020, so he's not eligible yet. Barry Sanders in, obviously. Adrian Peterson, not eligible yet, 14,918 yards rushing. Curtis Martin in. LaDainian Tomlinson, Jerome Bettis, Eric Dickerson, Tony Dorsett, Jim Brown, Marshall Faulk, Edgerrin James, Marcus Allen, Franco Harris, Thurman Thomas. All of those guys are 12,000 yards and over. And the only guys not in the Hall of Fame of those that are 12,000 yards or more are Adrian Peterson and Frank Gore, both of whom aren't even on a ballot yet. So when you look at the rushing yards, now I'm not saying it has to be. You got OJ at 11,000, Riggins had 11,000, Earl Campbell at 9,400, Jim Taylor at 85, Zonka had 8,000, Terrell Davis 7,600. So it does happen, but it looks like the 12,000 yard rushing mark is kind of that shoe in. Right, because we got to assume Adrian Peterson and Frank Gore are going to get in. Maybe not first ballot, but they're going to get in. So while he could go 10 to 11,000, Saquon, and maybe still get in, 12,000 would put him there, just for the sake of argument. So if we go 12,000 yards, and he is at 72.16. He needs 4,784 yards to get to 12,000. All right. He is 28 years old. If I divide this number by 3, he needs to average just under 1,600 yards rushing per season. And that would be through his, he needs to do that through his age 31. That's going to be tough. All right. That's just over, because you got to think after age 31, things are probably going to start coming downhill, right? Like he's not going to, it's just natural. Now, he's a freak, so, nothing to say that it can't happen, but what did I say? 47.84. So 47.84, let's divide it by 5. At that, he needs less than 1,000 yards a year. So if he goes 5 years and averages 1,000 yards a season, he's there. He's got it. The other thing I looked at as far as this goes is the scrimmage yards. Okay. Your all-time leaders in scrimmage yards and how that correlates to the Hall of Fame. So with this one, to me, I think you got to get to 15,000 total. I think he has to get there. Now, there's some guys who are over that aren't in. Warren Dunn had 15,306 scrimmage yards. He's not in. Tiki Barber, 15,632 scrimmage yards. He's not in. Adrian Peterson waiting to get in. But once you get, so maybe it's 16,000. That's the shoe-in number, right? Maybe that's the shoe-in number. Because if you look from 16,000 northward, now you got Terrell Owens, Hall of Famer. Tony Dorsett, Hall of Famer. Thurman Thomas, Hall of Famer. Adrian Peterson, going to be Hall of Famer. Curtis Martin, Hall of Famer. Larry Fitzgerald, going to be Hall of Famer. Marcus Allen, Barry Sanders, LaDainian Tomlinson, Marshall Faulk, all Hall of Famers. Frank Gore, going to be Hall of Famer. And then the top three, Walter Payton, Emmitt Smith, and Jerry Rice, obviously all already in. So those are what you're looking at that Saquon needs to get to, right? Now, the receiving yards aren't really his big thing. Pro Football Focus will show you Pro Football Reference will show you his 17-game average. And it has that at 61 catches, 449 yards. That's very skewed by that rookie season where he had 91 catches for 721. He's not come anywhere near that since. Year 2, he had 52 catches for 438. But since then, let's just take the last 4 seasons where he's, consistently played 13, 16, 14, 16, 263, 338, 280, and 278. So take out the high one, 338, take out the low one, 263. What are you left with? About 280 yards a year. Maybe you round it up to 300, maybe. So it's obviously more on the rushing stats with Saquon, like significantly. He's not a split. He's not like Marshall Faulk, where it was a lot of receiving yards. Saquon's he's not the guy. And our offense, you might get some screen passes, some swing passes and whatnot, but for the most part, even as great as he was this year, 33 catches, 278 yards, and 2 touchdowns in the air. One of those came in week 1. And no, I don't want to hear about how he could have had a third one if he catches the ball against Atlanta. Shh, enough. We won the fucking Super Bowl. Time to move on. But if you took 16,000 scrimmage yards as the number, and let's say he's got to get to that. So right now he's at 95, 94. That means he's got to get 64.06 more. It may take 6 years. Bottom line is, if he's going to get into the Hall of Fame, I'm not saying he has to rush for 2,000 yards every year he's in Philadelphia, although I know we don't love it. But he is going to have a couple of more really big seasons to get himself into a more easily attainable metric, into a more easily attainable number. Otherwise, he's going to be 33, 34, looking at numbers that are kind of just starting to scratch the surface. Now, he does have a Super Bowl win. That obviously helps. He did just set the record for most yards in a total season when you include playoffs. Obviously, that helps. He did just put up the 8th best rushing season in the history of football. Was basically one game away from having the best. So you can make that argument. He does hold the record for most receptions by a rookie running back. He has twice led the NFL in yards from scrimmage, his rookie year and this past season. He led the NFL in touches this year, in attempts and yards this year, yards per game this year. So, the Hall of Fame resume is building. But because of this early shit, with the biggest one is this stretch right here. It's 2020 and 2021. 2020 he only plays in 2 games. 2021 he plays in 13, but was an injury-plagued season. He only had 593 yards rushing. So over a 2-year span, he only put up 627 yards rushing and 323 yards receiving to go along with 4 touchdowns over 2 years. That is where he got hurt. And that's why these next couple of seasons in Philly, while he's got the lethal offensive line, while he's surrounded by other talent on this team, he's got to cash in. So there's your answer. For anyone who was interested in where Saquon may shake out as far as a Hall of Fame career, obviously we don't know, the unknown over these next few seasons. But, if he were to average 1,500 yards rushing and 300 yards receiving for the next 2 years, that's 3,600 yards total from scrimmage. He needed 60, so he would need another 3,000 after he turns 30 years old to get to that magic 16,000 scrimmage yard total. That's where we're at. That's where it goes with Saquon as far as now. We all know Saquon doesn't give a shit about that. Saquon cares about the last game of the year, the Super Bowl. That's all he wants to do is win. I'm hoping it stays that way now that he's gotten no victory. Hopefully, he just wants more. Given his demeanor, the way he's always behaved, the way he's always carried himself, I'm pretty confident that his demeanor will not change. He'll continue to be that guy. But it will be interesting to see how some of these guys react. Let's hop over here for just one more minute. Rock and Rods, that's more than Terrell Davis. You talking about scrimmage yards? TD had a very short career, but was massively impacted in that short span. Yeah, Russ, he wants hardware, dude. You look scared. Baba Booey to y'all. Tiki who? Tiki hater who? Russ Taylor, I hear Saquon wants to be like Bo Jackson on Tecmo Bowl. Hey, I'm all for it. As long as he stays healthy, I'm in. TD was hampered by concussions, migraines. Yes, he was. 2 Super Bowls though. Now look, here's another. Therein lies the caveat to the whole Saquon needs to get to this many yards. If we go and run it back, and he's again this massively MVP worthy part of another Super Bowl winner, he's probably already in at that point. A second Super Bowl would change that, and it's why Terrell Davis is in, even with the lower numbers. He was a huge part of back-to-back Super Bowls. We never talk about the Nigerian Nightmare. What a nickname. Yeah, Christian Okoye, dude. Another one on that Tecmo Bowl that was a savage. All right. I do have one final thing before we get out of here for the night. And that is, Roger, Josh, if you're still in the room, you can back me up on this. Fanny, if you're still there, haven't seen you comment in a while, but if you guys are still out there, you can back me up on this. I posted a thing in our Midwest Eagles nest about the Patriots having reached out to the Birds to see if A.J. Brown was available. And I laughed about it when I posted it, right? I mean, could you imagine Howie's reaction? Well, today on my ride home, I listened to First Things First, and that's the show Nick Wright is on. I listen mostly because I hate Nick Wright and I want to hear how dumb he is. He is going to die on that hill. He believes the door is open for the Eagles to trade A.J. Brown this offseason. I think it's complete lunacy. I mean, what the hell would you trade him for? Where's the replacement? Right? I mean, I love Smitty, but AJ benefits from Smitty and Smitty benefits from AJ. Plain and simple. You can remove one, the other one's going to have a much more difficult time. I can't picture a world where AJ Brown gets traded. So yeah, Russ Taylor, right on the head. Nick Wright, what a clown. This guy just won't back the hell off of it. Preseason last year, when we went and got Saquon, this is not where the Eagles should be spending money. Saquon Barkley will not be a difference maker for the Birds. These were all quotes from Nick Wright all season long. When, there was the whole, there was the question, people started questioning Jalen throwing the ball. Is there a rift between AJ and Jalen? All of this shit. Now, look, there probably was something there each of the last couple of seasons, but let's be honest, those two get over it. They're fine. But there was Nick Wright, just rooting, just cheering on any kind of controversy, any kind of turmoil in that Eagles locker room, particularly between Jalen and AJ, or some sort of smoke on Jalen not being able to throw the ball, or how Jalen isn't Patrick Mahomes, because we all know Nick Wright is a KC fan, and he deep throats Patrick Mahomes. You know what? And here we are, after we've already dismantled that franchise, stopped the three-peat, ripped them apart. The game was never close. The final score doesn't dictate how much we beat the shit out of them. Here's Nick Wright immediately trying to add drama to the Eagles again. You know what it is? I'm going to tell all of you exactly what it is. It's fear. It is 100% fear that Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles are going to come take what the Chiefs have been for the last however many years, 6 years, 7 years. It is 100% fear on the part of Nick Wright that Jalen Hurts and the Eagles are going to go rip off a few more Super Bowls, possibly beat his Chiefs again in the Super Bowl. That's what's going on here. He is a pencil-necked, pointy-nosed fucking goober who is scared to death of our Birds. That's what's going on here. He knows that first Super Bowl, 2022, fumble be damned, Jalen Hurts outplayed Patrick Mahomes. No question about it. He knows that we went into Kansas City during 2023 on Monday Night Football. I was there. And Jalen Hurts outplayed him again. He knows that just a month ago, our Birds took Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs to the fucking woodshed. And Jalen Hurts again outplayed their fucking Kermit the Frog. It is fear, 100% fear that we're going to go 3P, that we're going to start breaking records, that Jalen's going to be on the track to start creeping up that all-time list. That it's not just Mahomes, the Mahomes show anymore. And he can't handle it. So what does he do? He sees a tweet out there that the Patriots had reached out to the Eagles about A.J. Brown's availability, and he jumps all over it. Oh, wow, A.J.'s going to – I am on board. That door is totally wide open for A.J. to get traded this offseason. Kiss my whole white ass. And with that, folks, we're going to call it a night. Who's over here? There we are. Roger. AJ going nowhere. Josh, be the dumbest thing on both ends. The wide receivers in free agency are crazy this year. So's the draft. There's plenty of guys in the draft. We don't need to sacrifice wide receiver 1 when Pats can go shopping. Nick Wright is just butthurt that his bandwagon team didn't three-peat. Roger's just laughing at me over here. And Josh, one more time, we have all the makings for a dynasty for the next few years, and people are going to hate us even more. Thank you. Exactly. They're going to hate us because they hate us. That'll do it, folks. Guys, girls, this has been the Unhappy Gilmore Show, powered by Green Legion Radio and part of the Green Legion Radio family. Come on back again next week. We are going to dive into March Madness, baseball, Howie season, the draft coming up next month. Where did you put your early bird deposit in for Green Legion trips? I want all that and more next Wednesday night at 6 o'clock. Until then, folks, take care. Thanks for coming out tonight. Be good. Enjoy the upcoming weekend. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Remember, the judge is not back in until Monday. And as always, go Birds. All right, kids. That's going to do it. Take care. We love you.